have been divorced. Divorced people are allowed baptism, church membership, communion, and ordination, and remarriage. But this has not always been the case for homosexuals. What makes the one so much a greater sin than the other, especially considering the fact that Jesus never even mentioned homosexuality, but explicitly condemned divorce? Yet we ordain divorces. Why not homosexuals? Take the issue of sex itself. It began with sex only for procreation, in which the early Christian theologians all agree. If it serves to satisfy lust, it is regarded as venial sin. The Church Father Augustine in the 5th century said that we should mature as early as possible, to the point that we can dispense with sexual intercourse. Augustine must be seeing a lot of immature people in the audience this evening. However, the Old Testament regarded celibacy as abnormal, and we are to be fruitful and multiply. And in 1 Timothy, the first 3 verses, calls compulsory celibacy a heresy. Yet the Catholic Church has made celibacy mandatory for priests and nuns. Some Christian ethicists demand celibacy of homosexuals, whether they have a vocation for celibacy or not. Some anti-gay people can condone sexual orientation, but condemn same-sex acts. Leviticus 21 discusses how priests need to be morally and physically unblemished and must meet the requirements of the purity laws at that time. Today, most of those purity laws are ignored. Far from being a book full of bad news for gays and lesbians, I believe the Bible is indeed full of good news of God's love for all creation, gay, lesbian, bisexual, transgender, and straight alike. The Bible has no clear and consistent sex ethic, and only knows of love ethic, which is constantly being brought to bear on sexual mores, moral codes, or church teaching, and are dominant in any given country, culture, or period. There's also the emphasis upon grace rather than upon law. The medical sciences today acknowledge homosexuality as a sexual orientation, not a medical, psychological, and a psychiatric condition that can be changed therapeutically. It is on record that the American Psychological Association removes homosexuality from the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Psychological Disorders in 1973. In 1994, 2 decades later, in spite of all the charges that it was a high-pressure gay lobby that instituted a change in the American Psychological Association, in 1994, 2 decades later, it finally stated, homosexuality is neither illness nor a moral depravity. It is the way a portion of the population expresses love and sexuality. These statements from this association is also duplicated in the American Psychiatric Association and other medical and counseling institutions. The prevailing view among therapists is that gay and lesbian patients should be helped to improve their self-esteem, to overcome the continuing stigmatization of homosexuality in many societies. However, reparative therapies or conversion therapies are being endorsed by the National Association for research and therapy of homosexuality, which represents a minority of psychoanalysts, psychiatrists, psychologists, and other practitioners, and by some religions. Minister Mentor Lee Kuan Yew has indicated, as reported, that he's consulted his medical friends and has come to the conclusion that it is a genetic variation. We must admit that we do not know for certain the causes of homosexuality. This concluding statement is in an article best summarizes the situation. Perhaps there's no one answer, that sexual orientation, whether homosexual or heterosexual, gay, straight, lesbian, or bisexual, all are a cause of a complex interaction between environment, cognitive, and anatomical factors shaping the individual at an early age. Given this medical perspective on homosexuality, how do I minister? How do I care for the LGBT people? Within the larger framework of my understanding of the love of God for all of God's people, and my reading of Christian ethics relating to justice and concern for the marginalized and minorities, I can only affirm and accept the GLBT community and render my service to them in whatever way possible. From my perspective, therefore, it is within the purpose of God as in creation. There is the continuum of sexual relationships, from one end heterosexuality to the other end homosexuality. God has made it possible for each individual to be unique and different. And I affirm the diversity of God's creation. Homosexuality is a given and not a choice. When I minister to my gay friends, I feel the pain and agony when they first become aware of their attraction to another person of the same sex. The experience is that it is not a phase that will go away. In the solitariness of their closets, they struggle and pray. Most gay people from often painful personal experience that their homosexual inclination was never a deliberate choice. Who would, you ask me, in their right mind, choose to be gay when they know that they will be relegated to a small despised minority? On the contrary, they wear masks and pretend to be straight. Yet opponents of gay rights chose to discard these personal experiences and even want to criminalize them. At the same time, the gay community, of course, has a responsibility to change the perception by their own examples that the gay lifestyle is not hedonistic and promiscuous, and they do not even have a monopoly on hedonism and promiscuity. As I come alongside them, I sense their silent pain. I see their falling tears. I hear their aching hearts. This evening, I sense their rising hope, for they're receiving affirmation from you, recovering dignity, and restoring pride. Homosexuality is not an aberration, tendency, or inclination. It is an orientation. And may I end to say that homosexuality, therefore, in my perspective, is a gift from God to be accepted. It isn't the result of human sin or even the fallen nature because of Adam. We all have, by the grace of God, to live out the purposes of God, straight or gay, for we are all created by God. Thank you.